Hey guys, Josh Crutcher here. Wanted to talk to you guys today about the Payroll Protection Program, PPP loans offered through the SBA. I know, hopefully, you guys have found out about these, had an opportunity to contact your bank, ask them what documentation they need from you to be able to get these loans. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, talk about the legislation. It's probably be just 15, 20 minutes tops. We'll talk about a couple other things. But just wanted to get you guys familiar with what exactly this is and what we're doing here. So, I hope everybody's taking it easy, staying safe. Times are wild right now. I know I'm drinking a lot of coffee. I'm glad I've got an internet connection. At the moment, I'm not in my morning sweatpants, but who knows? But I'm definitely not shaving either or driving anywhere. But hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope you businesses are staying strong. And that's exactly what this PPP program is for. It's try to help you get a forgivable piece of your self-employment income, perhaps, or for some of your employees. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So Paycheck Protection Program. So just to kind of give an overview, these are SBA loans. To get these loans, you're going to need to work with your bank. Highly recommend working with the bank that you're already working with, because many banks are not taking on new clients, especially to process these PPP loans, because they're trying to take care of their current clients, and the demand is high, and so that is their focus, is the current clients. So if you go to a new bank, I can't promise you that they're going to want to take you on, especially if you're just going there for the PPP. On the other hand, it may be an opportunity for that bank to bring on new business if they want it. But basically, talking about the coverage period from February 15 through June 30th, and there's a reason for this. And we'll talk about it here in a second. So February 15th, basically what they'll do is just to give you an overview, they'll look at your staffing, how many employees you had, and they're going to look at that again on June 30th. So if you have a certain amount of staffing and you continue on February 15th and you continue to have that same amount of staffing, then there's potential that this entire loan will be forgivable. However, if you have a certain level of staffing February 15th, that staffing is decreased by June 30th, then there might be a ratio, a percentage that ends up being forgivable for you for the PPP. The idea of this program and the intent of the law, the legislation, was to give you guys a forgivable loan that will help you and assist you to be able to keep your employees employed. So there are a few things, definition-wise. You got to have under 500 employees. Sole proprietors and independent contractors and self-employed individuals can definitely qualify. Basically, especially if you've got employees, it'd be treated essentially the same. However, if you don't have any employees and you're a sole proprietor, what they would be looking at most likely is your self-employment income, your SE income, and the best place to find that is going to be on your tax return. So let's see here. So how do we figure this out? There's basically what they're trying to do here is give you 2.5 months of payroll, so you can keep folks employed with a forgivable loan for 2.5 months. And so let me throw an example out here so you guys can kind of see how this is being calculated here. So how do you calculate the maximum amount you can borrow? Step one, aggregate your payroll costs for the last 12 months, and we're going to make an easy example here. Let's say over the last 12 months, you had $120,000 of payroll costs. Subtract any compensation paid to any employees in excess of $100,000. So if you paid one person over $100,000, only their $100,000 is going to qualify. The rest of it would need to be removed from your gross salary. In our example, just say for example, there was somebody that earned, if one person earned $120,000, then all of a sudden their maximum compensation for the PPP purposes is only going to be $100,000. If somebody had, that's going to be their base that they can use for the year. If somebody had $1 million in payroll and 500,000 of that were for employees that were paid over $100,000, they're going to back that out. And then you're just going to be able to use the million. So, in our example, $120,000 costs over 12 months. So basically, that's going to be divided by 12. It's going to be $10,000 a month, and for average monthly payroll costs, and then we're going to multiply that by 2.5. So you're going to be eligible for roughly $25,000, 2.5 times $10,000, your average monthly payroll, and that's going to be your maximum loan amount. So, okay, here's the exact example I gave. Okay, and that's just easy math. It makes it easy to work with. And here's some other examples. Very similar. You can run through some of these. I'll make this document available out there, but just to give you an idea of what some of the options are. We'll define payroll. I will say that for self-employed individuals and sole proprietors, it is a little bit murky on how they're going to do this, and I'm sure this is going to be evolving still. So I had this presentation ready over a week ago, and there's been changes almost on a daily basis since. So I'll go ahead and put this out there and note that things are subject to change, but I want you to be aware of what your options are. So payroll costs, wages, commission, salary, cash tips, any medical, sick leave, and what's not counted is compensation above $100,000 and payroll taxes. So let's see, in this example, well, very similar example that we'd given earlier, except in this case, $2.4 million of total payroll costs for the period. Divide that by 12, you get $200,000. They're eligible for, and for my big businesses out there, this is right up your alley. With 5 to 10 million in payroll, it's this is something that $500,000 here of forgivable loans. So I mean, it's just trying to keep people employed. Let's see here. And so this is interesting too. Most of the payroll protection loans are going to be used for payroll, but some of it can be used. So basically, what I've seen is 25% can be used for rent, interest on mortgages. You can't pay your mortgage off. This is business property, utilities, and other things that are required to kind of keep your business going. That's an acceptable use. But like I said, the primary purpose of the Paycheck Protection program is to keep employees employed, keep your staff staffed. So I think I've seen roughly 25% of the total requested amount can be from some of these ancillary things like interest, rent, utilities, and other business purposes. So, and this has a loan forgiveness feature. That's probably the most attractive feature of it. And so if you also applied for the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and you do get that $10,000 advance, say they do extend that to you, the forgivable piece from the Paycheck Protection Loan is reduced. So you can't get both, but that's worth noting here. Let's see, and this is talking about a little bit about the proration of how many full-time employees you have at February 15th. through June 30th. This is looking at 2019 and 2020, but essentially it's you're looking at. I think this should be. This typo should be 2020. However many employees you had at February 20th, 2020, and you look at your payroll again at June 30th, 2020, and the idea is to retain the payroll that you have, and so if you do end up going dropping some employees, this isn't part of this is the program discourages you from letting folks go. And I know sometimes unfortunately it's going to be inevitable in these uncertain times, but the program is encouraging you to retain those employees. And so if you bring them back on a full-time basis and up to where they were as of February 15th, then you could be eligible for full reimbursement. And here's a rough example of how that's calculated. I did get the dates right here. So, all right. And I imagine these things are going to be continually revised and updated. The application for forgiveness, decision is to be made by the lender. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. One of the things I do know is each lender has different forms to be completed. Some of the better ones I've seen have come from Franklin Synergy. Actually, I've seen some from some Kentucky banks, and I've seen some of the bigger banks. I'll compliment Franklin Synergy, but I won't mention who they are. But they just got it's a PDF file, and Franklin Synergy provides some Excel files to show the calculations. But I mean, I've seen a 2-page PDF file with blocks that you can either type or write in. I mean, not even fillable blocks. You got to print it out, write it in, or I'm not sure exactly. And these are probably one of your top 5 banks out there. Just a unique process that I've seen. And so at the same time, since everybody's different, I'm not for sure if there's any guidance for forgivability or if each bank has their own guidance. So we'll end up seeing what that ends up looking like. And if you hadn't seen my other video about economic injury disaster loans, this is kind of what I'm highlighting here. It's another option. But the most attractive piece of this is, this is a nice loan, long-term, low-interest rate loan for businesses to help meet their capital needs for business for operating expenses. So it's very attractive. Similar requirements. Businesses less than 500 employees, sole proprietors, with or without employees, or independent contractors. There's no personal guarantee up to $200,000. But probably one of the most attractive things reasons why a lot of folks are applying for this is $10,000. If you go through the application, there's a place where you can select to receive an advance payment of your loan, and essentially it's a grant, and then you can get up to $10,000. No, up to $10,000. Doesn't mean you're gonna get $10,000 advance, but you can get up to $10,000, and that seems to be a big driver in this application. So there's 10 billion set aside. So if you just do the math, 10 billion divided by 10,000, you potentially be 1 million businesses, small businesses, getting $10,000 and more than $1 million if they're, as you would expect, that not everybody's going to get the full advance amount. But it says the funds are to be advanced within 3 days of an application. As of the 10th, I know a lot of folks applied for this last week, up through this week, and haven't heard of anybody getting these funds yet. I have heard of some of the PPP funds being fulfilled, so worth looking at there. Here's one rundown of each program. You can feel free to toggle back and forth, have a look at this diagram, but this seems to lay it out a little bit better. well, briefly anyway. So what each one can be used for, the maximum loan amounts for each, um, the annual percentage rates for each, payment terms, no payment on the PPP for 6 to 12 months. So and how much of it is forgivable? Up to 100%. Zero is forgivable on the EIDL. However, you do. It does mention the emergency economic injury grant, 10,000 up above. That does not need to be repaid. Hope you guys found this helpful. Feel free to go out to my website. I've got some other resources out there. nashtax.com. If you go to the primary page, you'll see Coronavirus Resource Center. Just feel free to click access there. Here's a few highlights. We've got some notes regarding tax prep. Basically, with these programs and the new legislation, it's kind of put us behind, but we are trying to take care of our businesses so they can retain some employees here. I do have some resources, some write-ups, blog posts on this, and also we've got some videos on some other things with the tax impact. There's some federal student loan relief. There's some general things about taxes, the implications. There's some retirement changes and some changes for 2020. Not as much applicable for current 2019 filings. And here's another video that talks a little bit more about the economic injury disaster loan. Guys, I hope you all have a good rest of your day and weekend. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm here to help. Talk soon. Thanks.